what do you know about the situation? He goes, they pulped it and it was coming up hot, right? I honestly believe that they shipped the product hot. Then we were basically like CSI. We had to do an investigation. That's your last resort.
Welcome to This Week in Trucking, the podcast that tells you what you need to know about the trucking market for the week. My name is Caroline, and today I am very excited to have an opportunity to talk to Singh of Virk Express and talk about how he's grown his business despite the downward trend in the trucking market and see what we can learn from him. We're also going to be joined a little bit later by his business partner, Sunny. Thank you so much for being here, Sim.
Oh, thank you for having us. Thank you for reaching out and giving us this opportunity. Never expected I'd do one of these.
I'm just so excited that I got a hold of you, and really for a really good reason, because it's been tough to get you on the show because your business has been booming. So tell me a little bit about your background in trucking. What brought you to the industry first? And how did you get started with your business?
Just a family. My dad was in trucking. So when he came to, I'm a son of an immigrant. I'm an immigrant because I was 9 when I came here from India to America. And right off the bat got into trucking. He was local construction trucking. And from there, he just grew. I saw him grow from 1 truck to 5, 6 trucks and then sell it when he was at its peak and then just move on to other segments in trucking, basically. He's been trucking. He was trucking in India when he was there too. So it was just one of those things where he told me, hey, I was average at school. I wasn't bad or anything, but he's like, hey, if you're at this point, at this rate, you're not even going to be able to get a Class A. And I said, I'll show you. And at 18, I got my Class A just to show my dad that I could get a license. But I didn't start.
Pretty young, right? For getting your CDL, usually, because I think there could be some restrictions around someone that young driving.
Yes. So at that time, this was 2007, 2008. I'm not exactly sure which year, but at 18, you weren't allowed to drive across state lines. So you could only drive intrastate, which was in California. Yeah. So I went and got my car license, I think at 17. And then as soon as I was able, you have to be 18 to get your CDL. So as soon as I did, I went back and I redid everything and I got it. I did fail. I did get it on my 6th attempt as far as the driving part. Yeah, because there was manual trucks back then. So
sure.
Now they're all automatic. Yeah. So I did. And ever since then, I'm glad I did because it's become this is how income, everything I have today is because of trucking. All the people I know, Sunny, everybody is because of trucking.
Yeah. Yeah. So tell me a little bit about your journey to owning your own business. You got your license. Did you start driving or did you work in the industry right away?
I actually got my license and I wanted to pursue a career in teaching. I wanted to be a history teacher. But when I got to college and I just saw the prereqs and all that stuff, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to take a job and make enough money to pay for college. And I did that. And I took a year off and I was like, I'll drive and I'll just save all that money and I'll be able to pay for college. I don't have to take out any loans. But then when I saw how much money I can make, I just never left.
And some people just graduating from college now, you can't get a better pay than for a lot of fields, depending on what field you go to. Maybe if you're going to finance or something really competitive, for the vast majority, I think, of people graduating with 2-year degrees, 4-year degrees, you're not making much more than a truck driver does when you graduate.
Exactly. Yeah. It's one of those things where it's a lifestyle, right? You do give up the time, you do give up your social life to a certain extent, but in return, you do get paid pretty well, especially if you do the job right. If you learn and you do the job and you're safe all the time, there's no way you cannot make money in this business.
So what made you want to start your own trucking business? Did you have that model from your family? Did your dad own his own business? Was he a company driver?
He had his own business. It never got to the point where he wanted me to join his business, and I wanted to prove to him that I can do it on my own too. I started off as a driver when I was 23, so this was like 2011 or 12. Started off as a driver. I think I drove for maybe a year before I got an opportunity to go work in an office, like in the back office of a trucking company, the one I drove for. The funny thing was that trucking company was just all guys my age, but they had a language problem. Their English wasn't as good as mine. And I know it sounds weird, but back then they needed somebody in the office that could communicate, email, all that stuff. And I was the only one. Because we were all friends, they're like, hey, do you want to come work in the office? I'm like, I'm making pretty good money driving a truck. Is this a demotion, a promotion? What's my situation? And they said, get in the office. We'll start you off at minimum, but we'll give you some sort of profit sharing or something from a truck or something. And that's what really got me interested in, or once I got into that, I saw there was way more than what was actually happening in trucking. How are you booking loads and repairs and driver pay and if taxes and all that other stuff. So once I got into that, I had a good, I want to say 2 years of training working for them on the job. And when I figured that out, I was like, okay, this is something I can do on my own. Then I bought my own truck, started driving my own truck, did just by myself. And then I knew Sonny from the same company. He was a driver as well. And he started working with his dad. And then we were just on the phone one day. He was running East Coast. I was running so we're in Sacramento, California. And because I was married and I had a kid at the time, I was like, you know what? I don't really want to spend that many days outside. So I used to run to Salt Lake and that was maybe a 2.5 day trip back then. And I told Sonny, I was like, hey, why are you running East Coast? You're gone for 2-3 weeks at a time. He lived in Sacramento too. I was like, why don't you start running this way? And he's like, the company he worked for at the time didn't have any lanes that way. That's just where the idea grew. I was like, what's stopping us from just doing it ourselves? I'm like, you're paying them dispatch. Why don't we just open up our own and not save that money? So that's where it started.
To be totally honest, if I walked into a trucking operation and without knowing anything about the industry, you already had some idea from being a driver. You see it all,
Yeah.
right? But if someone just coming in from the outside thinking, so yeah, trucking operation, point A, point B, how hard can that be? If they get into a trucking operation, they will be so overwhelmed by the amount of information that a trucking operation has to handle. So tell me about what that operation that you were working for was doing that you thought, I could probably do this better.
So sucks to say, but they mismanaged a lot of stuff, which taught me a lot because I saw when I got in there and I was doing the finances, I was like, okay, there's money coming in, but where's the money going? And when I saw the on the road repair bills, when I saw the just lack of basically payroll amongst each other, they just didn't have a business plan set up. And I was like, okay, these guys are just mismanaging their money. And then when I told them, I was like, we need to do this, we should do, they slowly understood the concept, but by the time they understood it, they were already deep in water with repair bills, with just owing drivers some money and some owner operators some money. So they were already in a hole. Instead of trying to dig themselves out, they just kept digging deeper and deeper. And that's when I decided, I was like, okay, I don't see a future in here for me. I have to learn from this and basically manage it right. And that's what I did when I did step away from them. I realized that when people say that you need to have a 3-4 month reserve of all your expenses, you need to have a good insurance company. Your safety score needs to be good so you don't get pulled over in the scale. And yeah, you might have a bad tire, but if your safety score is good, you're not going to get pulled over and you can repair that tire at home. But when you don't take care of your equipment at home, it's going to break down on the road. And the repair that will cost you $50 or $100 at home is going to cost you triple the price. That's what got them in the hole.
Plus a tow job.
Personally, I went through one myself. Tow bills today are ridiculous. This was 2016 or 17, and I had to pay $2,500 for about 40 miles. Yeah. So all because my rear end went out on the truck and I was just in a situation. At that point, you can't do anything. You just have to say, okay, just get me where I am, especially if you're loaded and then you're committed to the customer and you're like, hey, I'm going to figure out a way to get this going.
Yeah, but 40 miles. Wow.
Yeah, $2,500, 40 miles. It's ridiculous. It's
crazy.
A few things like that in this industry that still tick me off that we know that can take advantage of you. You just have to aware of it and try to dodge it as much as you can.
Tell me a little bit more about Virk Express. How many trucks are you running? What kind of equipment do you have? What lanes do you do?
So as of today, we have 5 trucks, 7 reefers. So we run all reefers, and we used to have more. We had about 5 owner operators, but we did let them go. We kind of wind down in the last 3-4 months of our owner operator business. Because of the way the rate and fuel price, everything was so high, it didn't make sense for us. It didn't make sense for them. Now we just have 5 company trucks, 7 reefers, and we just run Northern California to Salt Lake City, Idaho Falls back to Northern California. And we've been doing this for the last, it's 2024. So we've been doing this since 17, 18.
And have you always been in the refrigerated freight business or?
Yes. Yeah. When I started off as a driver, I think I ran a dry van for a month, but after that it was all reefer. So it was just something I was familiar with. The company I worked for, majority of them were reefers. So it just made sense. When I started my own thing, I did reefers. Sonny was also doing reefers. So I was like, hey, this is something we understand, something I know there's money in this. So we just stuck with that.
And what kind of tips do you have for other reefer carriers about booking loads? How do you get loads? Do you do dedicated lanes? Do you work the load board? How are you making sure that your trailers are full?
Yeah. So as of right now, we're 90% dedicated. So there's every now and then where we're looking on the board to where we're going to be. We have to look on the board and work with TQL or Allen Land or some company out there. But 90% is dedicated, and those we didn't start off dedicated. We worked the boards. I found this lane that we run now for Associated Foods out in Utah. They're Kroger, Associated Foods, and they have a few other chains. So basically all their milk goes up from here, all their dairy from the farms out here. And when I found that lane, I just stuck with that broker. I just kept calling that broker every day. Said, hey, we did this load for you. Do you have another one? Oh, I don't have any more for the week. Maybe next week. Okay. Called her back the next day. Do you have one for next week? Not yet. Call me back. Okay. Just kept bugging her. Not in the sense where she would get annoyed. Just check in every day. Just check in. Hey, how's it going? I'm going to have a truck for you if you have something. And that's what got the ball rolling. When that started, and I was like, okay, we're getting consistent loads from California, I started working on the backhauls. And we used to be randomly picking up from Salt Lake or Idaho. And again, we found this, it was a particular load that I found. We work with Wada Farms. I think they're the second largest farm in Idaho. And when we found that lane, I asked the lady, I said, hey, it's going from Idaho Falls to Stockton, very close to Sacramento, everything. She goes, yeah, I usually have about 4 or 5 of these a week. I said, great. Yeah. And I just every day called her. And yeah, some days I didn't have a truck up there, but I would still make it look like I did, or I was interested in trying to help her out to make sure it got covered. And that's what started it. And we were lucky enough. We worked with a gentleman named Kevin King at Wada Farms. He's about to retire, but we've been holding him. I've been telling him not to retire for the past 2 years because I was like, you can't go, because if you go, who am I going to be working with? And he basically took over our account, and he called me one day and he goes, hey, you've been doing these potato loads for the past 2 weeks, and I like the way you guys are doing them. You're showing up on time. You're picking up on time. I'm going to be giving you these. If you can do it, it's going to be a dedicated opportunity. I don't want to hear any complaints. I don't want nothing. Basically, when he called me, it felt like my dad called me, because he was like, you're going to do this. You're going to do this. I'm thinking like, who is this guy just telling me what to do? And he's, look, I've been in this industry for 35 years. I had my own trucks. I had my own brokerage, and now I work for these guys. He's like, you'll never have to complain about work. And if you're going to work, that's who I'm looking for, basically. And I don't know if he was just trying to feel me out or what. And then I did ask him a month later, once we did, I'm like, hey, how come you called me like that? He goes, honestly, you were the only one that could communicate in English. Verbatim, that's exactly what he said. And I felt bad. But then at the same time, I'm like, okay, I do have an advantage in my community, in the Indian community, that I am able to speak, articulate a little bit better than majority of the people that are in the industry. And that's what he was looking for. Somebody that just understood what he needed, and he didn't have to explain.
There are plenty of native English speakers that can't communicate their way out of a paper bag. So it probably goes even further beyond just language skill. Obviously, the language skill is going to be really important.
Skill. It was, if he emailed me or called me, it answered right away. And it was open communication. Yeah, it was open communication. I always believe, if I'm not honest with the people I'm servicing, they're not going to be honest with me. And he was honest enough to where, like you were asking about finances earlier, I'll just give you an example. We were doing the Idaho Falls to Stockton loads for about $1,400. And that was a good price for a backhaul at the time. It was about 750 miles, right around $2 a mile on the backhaul. And when he took over the account, it jumped to $2,400.
Wow.
Like without even me asking. He didn't even, and I thought it was a mistake. I thought it was a mistake. I thought, hey, He goes, "Oh no, that's the rate. That's the rate I'm going to give you. I'm not going to, yeah, I don't want to hear anything. I don't want to hear you were delayed or this. You're going to be working. I need trucks that are willing to work, that want to work, and I'm going to make sure they get paid good." And then he told me something. He goes, so he's on the brokering side. And he said, "I only take about 8%. And I have about 2 other companies that work dedicated with me. If you want, you'll be in the pool. And I don't argue with people. I don't negotiate. I just, whatever I can, I try to pay you guys the best." And those rates have only gone up. So I don't know if we were just lucky or out that he ended up contacting us, but from talking to Kevin, he knew what he was talking about. I took it upon myself to just learn from him, because that's when as much as I knew about the trucking side, like truck payment, insurance payment, fuel and stuff like that, he taught me the freight market and how, what's in season, when does the seasons end, when do the seasons start, when you should ask for more money, when you should just do it, don't ask for it. He taught me those tips and tricks, and he still teaches me. Right before Thanksgiving, I think in about 3 weeks, we ran about 120 loads for him, just because they were so busy. And it was so busy that I can't say we made it work. We made it work. And he was happy. We were happy. Everybody made money in that situation. So people that are saying that it's bad out there, I can't afford it or anything, or they're just mismanaging. There's something going on where they're mismanaging something. And once they figure that out, they'll be able to make money.
I think one of the issues, this is something I've talked about with a couple of people on the show. Sometimes the problem isn't just mismanagement, although there's plenty of mismanagement in any industry. Sometimes the problem is, especially with small businesses, owner operators, if you don't have really well defined what kind of freight you're going to be in and what kind of market you want and what kind of customers you want to build relationships with, if you don't have those things in mind, sometimes those feel like a luxury because there's this sort of esoteric, intangible thing, but they're actually a really important part of running a trucking operation. Can you talk a little bit about that? How did you decide, okay, these are the lanes that I'm going to run? Was it customers kind of defined that first and then you responded? Or did you just decide that for yourself?
No, it was actually when I started speaking with Kevin, and he told me, he basically said one day, he said, "Hey, there's a lot more to this industry than what you're asking me," or because I like to ask questions. I started asking him, I was like, "Well, how much potatoes do you guys ship?" He goes, "Oh, we go all over US. We have customers from Walmart to Costco to the smallest of the smallest guys, right?" He goes, "It's just a matter of," he said, "who do you want to service? Which customer do you want to be out there sending your trucks to?" And that's when I realized, I was like, okay, this trucking is just a very small part of the whole circle. It's the freight that gets moved. And those people are the ones when they build relationships with, because a lot of companies have their own trucks. And then they just send their drivers out there. But when they're looking for a carrier, they don't want to deal with the trucking part of it. They want somebody to come in and take care of that.
Right.
And then they want to be able to tell their customer, my truck is coming, because that's what they say. They say, my truck is coming and they'll be delivering or they'll be there at this time or whatever. That's what I realized is that, okay, I have to run this like a boutique. I can't just I can't be another trucking company. I have to run it like a boutique. And that it changed it from the trucking business to just customer service, to making sure whether it's the broker that calls me or the shipper for updates or the receiver, they're going to get the best customer service I'm able to give them. And then just that is going to make them, not the first time, the second time or the third time it'll work, where they'll be like, okay, we're going to call that guy because he knew what he was talking about. He was on time. He didn't cause any problems. There was no issues when we used that carrier. And that's why when me and Cindy got together and when we started before it was just random. It was just open up the board. Oh, hey, let's do this. Let's go. Then when it became this lane out here in California, I don't know much about it. Highway 5, there's just from Portland to LA, it's just a bunch of drop-in hubs. And there's quite a few big, large companies that have just taken over. Told Cindy, our goal should be to take over this little from Sacramento to Salt Lake. Like we should be the ones people are like, oh, hey, who goes to Salt Lake? Oh, those guys do. Or who do we call if we want to send somebody to, or from Idaho back to here, let's use those guys. So that's where my idea of running it as a boutique came in, where I was like, let's just focus on these 3 to 4 customers. I know a lot of people said, don't throw your eggs all in one basket. We're not. we didn't throw all of our eggs in one basket, because when they weren't busy, we still had the board, we still had the load board, we still had other freight outboard that was available. But we focused on that so much that we made our budgets according to the work they use. Not to just sit here and be like, oh, it'll be busy next week or it'll be slow next week. No, we knew, okay, hey, he has 5 loads next week. How are we going to get those covered? And we're going to get paid this much per load. So that's how much money's coming in, how much fuel is going to get used, how much are we paying the drivers, and then what's our truck payment or insurance payment, all that. Does it make sense? Because if it didn't make sense, then we wouldn't be running the lane. And when you give good customer service, they'll listen to what you have to say too. So if you go to them and say, hey, I need a little bit more money, they don't ask you any questions. They say, okay, that's fine, whatever you need. That's why we've been able to sustain this, because we don't give them a chance to complain, and at the same time we don't take advantage of the situation. Like during COVID, we didn't raise our prices, and we're still getting the same prices now, even though everybody else is getting lower prices.
Hey, Sunny. I am hoping, Sunny, that you can tell us a little bit about how you got into the trucking industry. Where did you get your start, and how did you come to start Virk Express?
My dad started Virk Express back in 2011, and I actually had to get into trucking after he passed away, covering the bills and stuff, and then quit college and started this. And we worked for a different company. This company stayed dormant for a while, and we worked for a different company that went under since then. But that's how me and him met. And then from there on, we decided to basically start this.
We didn't think this is what was going to come out of it at the time. It was more of just, he was gone for 2 weeks, and then he would come take like a week off. Then he would go away for 2 weeks. And I was like, hey, we don't hang out. We don't do anything.
Social life was dead at that point.
We ran to Salt Lake. We could literally just do a trip a week and have a couple of days off and be able to hang out and enjoy time with our family, or just get together and then work at the same time. And that was the goal when we first got together, and it just slowly just turned into this.
Yeah, and combining those two things, right? What do you want personally, and then solving a business problem. We've been talking about these lanes for produce and how critical it is to have good communication, to have people on time, to have your maintenance on point, to have trucks ready to go. All of that. There's so much work that goes into that. Sunny, what do you think is the toughest part about running this business?
I don't know. Everything seems tough sometimes, and sometimes everything runs smooth. But flux of new drivers that are very inexperienced, and patience. Basically, I think the biggest problem with trucking right now is patience. No one's got it. Everybody's lost their sucker where they actually watch out for each other. Everybody's just in a rush. ELDs, I don't think help out much either. The electronic ones, just like that. I believe that's one of the biggest problems with trucking right now. Even running a business, it's just, why can't I go faster? Why aren't they unloading me on time, and all that kind of stuff.
You mentioned drivers. That was one of the things I wanted to ask you all about. You've been on a journey of expanding your operation. It's contracted a little bit, having owner operators, not having owner operators, deciding just to go with company drivers. How do you make that decision, and how do you find good drivers to fill those trucks?
These drivers are just really recommendations. Hey, I got a guy who's he got fired for this thing, or he likes your route. He wants more home time too.
And a lot of it does have to do with what stage we're in as far as them being a driver. What I've noticed in this industry is when they start off, they're like, hey, we'll go anywhere. We'll go anywhere. Send us anytime. We don't need any home time, especially if they're single, because they're looking to hustle and make money.
Yeah.
And if it's a family person, somebody with a wife and kids, they usually want to be like, hey, I want a little bit more home time. And because of the lane we're in, that's when, like he said, we get recommendations, because someone will say, hey, I have a guy who's a really good driver, but he doesn't want to run East Coast anymore.
Sure.
He needs more home time, something. And that's where we come in, because we're like, yeah, we only go here. So if you run to Utah, you'll have 2 days off in the week, no matter what. And
reputation helps too. They know that we're not going to mess up anything or do them wrong or any way, and then be like, hey, the other guy ran him this much and didn't pay him enough, so he's down on his luck. You guys need a driver. Sometimes we have to say no, because we only got a certain amount of trucks. But sometimes, we'll take them on, no worries. And then they run with us and they like the stuff. We have one driver he's sick, but he loves Nevada. He loves to gamble. He left and came back just because it wasn't working out for him.
Yeah, we left because he basically was like, it's not as busy as it was during COVID. And I'm like, it's not COVID time anymore. We just got to do what we got to do. When he left, he realized that he wasn't making the same amount of money, but then it wasn't the same. I don't know if it's trust or what it was. He just didn't feel right. He's like, hey, I'd rather do this. And I know that you guys, I'm going to get paid at the end of the week or in the 2 weeks, whatever the time is. And it sucks, but that's a really big problem in the industry, where smaller companies do take advantage of these guys, and they'll nickel and dime them for the dumbest things. And me and Sunny went through that. That was one of our things when we did decide to start this. I was like, one, we're not keeping anyone's trip down or a deposit or anything like that. Like, they do the work, they get paid. They do the work, they get paid. And it was going great until California announced this whole AB5 law thing, and that just threw a wrench in it too, because in trucking, they're used to getting their money right away, and then they can figure out their own taxes. And I know AB5 is that in the long term, it's a good thing for everybody, the Social Security and all that stuff, but a lot of drivers they're just going from, if they do drive, they're driving 6 months and just buying their own truck because they don't want a W-2. They're like, we want to deal with our taxes at the end of the year, which is okay with me. I don't have a problem, but we used to be able to pay them right after a trish. Now we have to do the whole W-2, pay them after 2 weeks, bi-weekly. Why is it like this? How come this much tax? I'm like, hey, it's just the category you fall under. I can't control it. That's how much you make. And that's what the tax is going to be. But that's the situation with the drivers. It's a lot of them are recommended. Majority of them are recommended. I've used Indeed. I've used Monster to post up job postings, Craigslist. And I've gotten a lot of calls through that too. We've hired a few people through those channels as well. But when it's someone recommended and you trust the person that recommends them, it's a little bit more easier process that way.
Can you talk through the process of actually getting a new driver onboarded? I know that there's a lot of regulation around that. You have to do a drug test, you have to do background checks and all of that. Do you manage that yourself, or do you have a system you use or a person that you use to do that?
Yeah, I did try in the beginning to do it myself, but it was just way too much. So we do have a company now that we use locally here. They do our drug test, they do our pre-employment, they do the whole clearinghouse, everything for us. It's a one-stop shop, and we just send the driver there. They make the driver file, all that stuff, and then we just they just manage it for us. And it's easier, but again, it's another service we have to pay for every month. They used to be truck payment, insurance payment, and fuel. That was it, or trailer payment if you had one. And now it's truck, trailer payment, insurance, ELD, all drug and alcohol program, and now this pre-employment thing, then clearinghouse, then just pre-pass, so many things now.
All we do is with a new driver is he'll go with the driver, do a couple of trips, make sure that the guy's running good, knows how to come over down or pass, especially because a lot of rookies will end up burning out their brakes on that one. And see how they're doing and go from there, put them on permanently.
Do you have a pretty good track record of hiring drivers, or has it been a bit of a learning curve?
There's always, I don't know if you heard this from other companies, but there's always like that one guy that like the company always has, that one driver that'll just stay with them no matter what. Like we have that guy, and he's good, but he's also a pain in the butt sometimes too. You just deal with that. And then, so out of the five trucks, there's always one truck down because of a driver. It's just part of the game. And at that point, it's usually him or me on that truck using it to deliver or pick up or even do a trip. And it's just funny how that works. We've never had like good 4 or 5 guys that are always just ready to go. There's always one guy who worked for 6 months and be like, I'm out. I'm going to go somewhere else. For the most part, I think we have about 3 guys that have been with us for 4+ years now. Yeah.
That's a great tracker. That's great retention.
Yeah.
Driver.
Yeah. Main thing is just pay them on time. Just some of these stories I hear, oh, you were late to the delivery. Here's $100 charge. Even though there's no charge, like the broker didn't charge you or the shipper didn't charge, but they'll charge drivers. And then you'll hear stories, oh, the truck is dirty, I'm going to charge you. Or you didn't do this, I'm going to charge. And me and Sunny went through that, and I'm like, we're not going to do that to these guys, because we know how hard it is to be away from home, be away from your family, drive a truck, and nothing is in your control other than the truck is moving. Then you're controlling the truck. But when you're at a receiver, they're going to take their sweet time. It's out of your hands. When you're at a shipper, they're going to take their sweet time. So for us to nag them and nickel and dime them, and then of course they're going to go somewhere else. And yes, if we do get charged, I still try not to charge them, but I do let them know, hey, this is what happened. And a lot of times it's not the driver's fault. It's the truck broke down or traffic or whatever the case might be. Weather. Majority of the time, these brokers and shippers and receivers, they understand, okay, if the weather caused a delay or traffic or whatever, that's our main thing. Like first we pay them, then we figure out the rest.
I love that. Unfortunately, I think that's pretty unusual in this industry. So I'm hoping that people hear this and see it not only as the right thing to do, which it is, but also a really strategic business move. Because if you can have great drivers that drive for you for multiple years, that saves you so much in having to hire and onboarding.
Certain point, they start treating the truck like their own. They eventually will be like, they'll start nagging us like, hey, I need this part, I need this, or they'll do better pre-trips, or this vibrating like this could work on this, or they start, because a lot of new guys you bring in first 6-7 months, they just, why even pre-trip the truck? Why could I do it? It's not my thing. I only get
Some of the drivers we hired, yeah, they're like, oh, I get paid to drive the truck.
pre-trip it.
And I'm like, and it's, did you not learn anything? And it's getting worse because now you can get a license in 2 weeks and it's all automatic trucks.
Right.
It's like a pre-written course. Every trucking school that's out there, they make them go through the motions and here you go. And then the real training starts after they get a license because then they're with me or Sonny or somebody, an experienced driver sitting next to them. And I feel like since 18, I've trained about 5 guys. And to this day, I'm like, none of these guys had any idea, even though they held a fleet.
I don't even know how to distribute the weight. Should I slide the tandems or should I slide the fifth wheel to get the weight right? It seems very, I don't know if we've learned it or been in it for a while, that it seems very rudimentary to figure out. It's not that hard, right?
When me and Sonny got our license, like it was a lot more hands-on and we were a lot more, hey, this is how you do this is how you do this, and you actually learned before you even got in.
The fact that there's a lot of more not many more manuals out there, because you would get your CDL, but you still needed to learn how to shift gears, float them or double clutch them or however you wanted to do. And you'd
You
go
have to like really think about how the truck works.
with someone for a couple of months or a couple of trips or however you want to, then you learn smaller things as it goes. The truck starts driving weird. Maybe the leveling valve on the trailer broke, so the airbag's dumped out. It's jolting around, or this is where we need the tandems to be to distribute the weight. Or sometimes the tandems get stuck and you got to jolt the truck back and forth to break that little rust thing. Sometimes I can't figure out what's going on. Call
what Sonny is saying is sounding foreign to you, like leveling valve and tandems and all that stuff, right? It's foreign to these CDL holders too when they first start. It's like, how do you not know that? How do you not know this? You should be trained in this. And you've been driving for what, a year now? And you don't know how to put the glad handles on the trailer? They never taught you that? Like, how are you on the road? And it's just amazing. That's the crazy part where we can't hire a new driver because of the way our insurance works. We're not big enough to where we can hire a brand new driver and just put them on the road. And we're still in that one spot where, yes, they have to have some sort of experience before we can hire them on. But even when they say, hey, I have 2 years of experience, I'm ready to go. I'm like, okay, you would think somebody with 2 years of experience, I don't even need to do a trip with them, but I most likely usually have to spend a month with them just to make sure they know what they're doing, what they're not doing. And that's the drivers that usually rotate out of this whole thing, because the ones we do have that are sticking with us, they knew from the beginning and they're still learning. When a driver comes to you and says, hey, I know everything, that's usually a bad start. I still learn every day. There's plenty of docks where I can't park, even after all these years. And me and Sonny are usually like, oh, you
don't
know,
get cocky
we're trying to
and start messing.
yeah, exactly. And like you said, it's just weird that in this industry that's keeping America moving is there's so many levels to it, and yet some levels are still so elementary, so basic.
Check the seals on the trailer, because if they leak out, bearings run dry, they can catch them. What are seals? Get under the trailer, get a flashlight. There's only 4 of them on the trailer. Just make sure there's no oil.
And Sonny's not a mechanic. He doesn't have a mechanic's like he's learned this on the road. And
this seems like it would be even more treacherous for a business that deals with refrigerated freight too. Because there's a lot that you have to know about that reefer trailer, not just the truck.
A lot of you have to learn how to prime them. So they ran out of fuel. Or
one of the reasons why we weren't able to do this about 2 weeks ago is because of that one, just what you said right now. We do the dairy loads, the milk loads to Associated from Sacramento, and we've been doing them for 6-7 years. We've never had an issue. All of a sudden, they rejected a whole load. Yeah, and we were like, what? They're like, the driver calls me like 1 a.m. He goes, hey, they rejected the whole load. Actually, it was Sonny, wasn't it you the first? No,
you the first. I sat there for 4 days until they came out with a decision to either keep or...
They told us that, hey, we rejected the load, your temperature is out of range. And I said, well, that makes no sense. The temperature is where it's always at. It's the next morning, they're like, the broker calls me and says, I need you to go get a reefer report. I was like, yeah, I'm going to get a reefer report and show you what the temperature has been since the time we picked up the load to the time we delivered. And you can check. And that's exactly what it was. The report showed that we had it set at 35 degrees and it sat at 35 degrees the whole time. And for some reason, they were saying, nope, it's coming up 40 degrees or above. It's milk, right? So they can't, it's dangerous. They're like, hey, we can't take this because we take it and somebody gets sick because
Right.
we're selling it, right? And I get it. And they try to pin that on us. I said, how is this my fault or our fault? We set the temperature where you wanted us to set it at. And I was like, you guys took 4 hours to unload. Maybe your dock, maybe your warehouse is at the wrong temperature. Where do we go? We're just two people, right? We're trying to figure out.
I was pinning on them because they can.
To this big corporation, like, what's the dock temperature? What's this? So what do? I have the number for the receiving guy. I email him. I said, hey, this is Sam, this is what's going on. What do you know about this situation? He goes, they pulped it and it was coming up high, right? I honestly believe that they shipped the product hot. I was like, okay. So I was like, okay. Then we were basically like CSI. We had to do an investigation. We came back here, Sacramento, and then, so that was the first load that got rejected. The second load got rejected. So now we have 2 trailers full of milk that are being rejected. And they're calling our insurance to file a claim. And the third one that we're picking up, we've never pulped it, but they're like, the Sacramento said, we cannot go in the warehouse to pulp the product. I said, that's fine. Load us and we'll pulp the product once it's in our trailer. And lo and behold, it's pulping at 40 degrees and above.
57, 58 degrees. They never run it.
But the shipper is saying, hey, our product is okay above 40 degrees. We're okay with that. We guarantee the quality of it. Okay. Give us a letter releasing it. If anything happens, we guarantee everything is good. And so they try to do that, but then they realize that, we can't do that because we might be taking that whole liability on us. And my insurance company is getting calls that we got 2 loads worth about $90,000 that they're going to file a claim on. So what we decided to do with the broker is we ran the reefer at 30. So we used to run them at 35, and then now we run them at 33. And by the time we deliver, they're pulping at 37, 38. And they're like, we'll take it. So they started taking them. Then we ran the 2 trailers that were sitting there Sonny was sitting there for 4 days. The second load was sitting there for 3 days. We reset them to 33. And after the 4 or 5 days, they were pulping at 36, 37, and they took them as well. And
Interesting.
I just feel like I was telling Sonny, I was like, if it was somebody else, like another company that didn't have people that they could call and figure this, like they would be on the hook for this stuff and all that. They would have had insurance claims and the broker would have been like, you know what, maybe we can't use it. We're going to have to find somebody else. But we figured it out because those guys, they just wanted to blame us. They're like, oh, no, it's your guys' fault. But then the
insurance did help out too. They stepped up and they said, this is BS.
Because they don't want to.
You don't want to pay.
The insurance was like,
we're small enough our operation. These are multi-million-dollar companies. They'll just pin it on you and say, you know what? There's nothing you can do about it.
They have, what's the company? Swift has 6,000 trailers. So if 2 of them do get rejected and are loaded and sitting there, that's not even no one's even going to notice them. For us, for having 7 trailers and then 2 of them are all of a sudden down, loaded, and we don't know what's happening and we're in limbo, not only is it affecting the work right there and then, but it's also affecting the work that's coming up. Because now we're having to cancel and reschedule and all that stuff. And at the end of the day, yes, we have great relationships with everybody, but nobody owes anybody anything. They're gonna want their freight moved. And when I was like, we were basically trying to figure out what's going on. And when we figured it out, that then basically it was a lesson in the sense that, okay, if you try hard enough, you can get through and you figure it out. You don't just, okay, fine, you rejected it. Okay, fine, I have insurance. I'll just claim. No, like that's your last resort. That's your last resort. If you can figure it out without having to get any insurance or any kind of legal stuff into it, that's the best case scenario. And the only way you'll be able to do that is if you have relationships with their broker, with their shipper or your receiver, and they trust you enough that, hey, what he's saying, let's listen to what he's saying, because they've been doing this for a long time and we've never had an issue. And all of a sudden we're going to have these issues. And ever since then, no problem. And it's just weird. It's just small examples like that where that's where we actually do feel our size. We're like, hey, because when everything is normal, we're like, hey, we're doing good. We're making money, everyone. But then when stuff like this happens, that's when they make you feel like, okay, you are just a little tiny fish in this big whole thing where they'll just be like, yeah, we don't care. We just want our money, or we're going to claim this and we'll just move forward from there. $90,000 for a multi-million-dollar company isn't
Right.
much.
No big shake.
Yeah, but for us, it's okay. We don't necessarily want our insurance rates to go up.
And when your insurance then renews, it's not just about the claim. It's, in the moment, it's also about the ramifications that has a year later when you're about to renew your insurance. And that's actually something that I wanted to bring up around compliance, because that's the thing that I've seen that puts a lot of people out of business. It's not necessarily just the cost of insurance, although the cost of insurance has gone up incredibly in the last couple of years. But it's the differential in the cost of insurance once you've had an accident or you've had a claim or you've had some kind of issue or you're not paying attention to your safety score and you're not noticing that things are going wrong. So how do you deal with that? How do you manage compliance? Do you have another service that you use that manages compliance? Do you do it all yourself? And then how do you make sure that you're keeping your insurance as low as possible?
Yeah, we're trying and it's not working. And Virk keeps going up and up. But as far as compliance goes, we have pre-pass in all of our trucks, and pre-pass has a really good website and dashboard as far as why the truck got pulled in or why they're giving you a red light and all that stuff. So that gives us an insight as to what we can improve on. And then every time we do get an inspection I think it used to be that you would get reg tagged if there was something wrong with your equipment. But now I've noticed that we're getting, if we do have a few people go, but not red tagged, but just out of service, is because logbooks. Not necessarily like they're running their logbook wrong. It's just sometimes they don't connect to the phone or the device doesn't want to work. And what's written in the book is, hey, you need to start a paper logbook. You need to write down what happened. And we follow it to the rule book, but we don't control the DOT officer.
It depends on their mood, because we just had one of our drivers get a ticket that seems very ridiculous in the sense that, so when you're running your logbook, you look at the thing, there's a button where you can press it and it'll show you your split book. Like your original book will be out of time and it'll show a violation on it. But if you hit the split, it'll show you, okay, you got this extra time and you can run it that way. And then you get back to Sacramento and you do your 10-hour sleep or whatever and everything's good. He got a ticket that he said he was the officer said he was cheating on his logbooks by not pressing that button beforehand, before showing you. Because if I give you the book, all you got to do is press a button and it'll update it and show you that it's okay. If he splits it like he is as when he's legit, everything's up and fine. But he got a book. He got a warning or a ticket for just you were manipulating your phone?
Yeah, he got a warning and they made him sleep 10 hours because the DOT officer's exact words were that when he showed me his book, it said 0 on his clock. And I said, yeah, but he's running a split book. I was like, a split book means that he has time. He has 4 hours and something left on his drive. He goes, no. He said, no, you just edited that. I said, how? I was like, I'm not even there. How can I edit it? I was like, it's just like he just forgot to press the split. Not even for the he just needed to show you that, oh, look, hey, I'm running my split book and here you go. This is how much time I have left. He goes, nope, I saw 000 on his time. He's got to sleep for 10 hours. You're lucky I'm not going to give you a ticket. And at that point, it's like, what do we do? Who do we call? Can't call anybody. Can't do it.
Just argue with officers because if he wants to, he can goes on the record. Right, just pull into the bay. I'm going to inspect your truck and I'm going to make sure I find something wrong with your truck to put you out of service. And then it just escalates the whole thing. Always convey it. Just, okay, I'm sorry, officer. Just thank you for the warning. I'm so grateful for that part. But officers, well, not most, but some of them don't even know the rules as well when they pull you over. I think they're learning as they go. It gets very complicating sometimes and how it goes and doesn't go.
It was end of 22, 23. We got our basically bed inspection here in California where they come and check everything, all your paperwork, all your equipment. The CHP comes out to your yard and everything. And that's where we got a good lesson on logbook and how we should be using it and what are the rules pertaining logbook and split book and all that stuff. And what had happened was some of the drivers weren't using the book like they're supposed to. But that officer, he's like, hey, look, it's fine. It's your first time. This is what you're supposed to do. And so then we tell that to the drivers. And then when they do that, it's not correct to a certain DOT officer in Nevada or Utah or Idaho.
Right.
And that's, wait, I was told that I'm allowed to do this and that I can run it like this. And you're telling me I can't. Who's right? Because you guys are both coding FMCA rules, but you're interpreting them differently and he's interpreting them differently. I'm not trying to break any laws. I just need to know what I can do, what I can't do, so I can let the drivers know. But I feel like
It's really up to the
first
cops' mood of the day.
it is up to the cops, but it's a whole thing. There needs to be a little bit more of a, what's the word? Like everyone,
Standard.
a standard and on the same page. Okay, this is the rule. This is what you're allowed to do. And I feel like there's too many ELD companies, and those each ELD company is pulling in customers because, oh, we will allow you to do this or we'll allow you to do that. Question mark. And then FMCSA is now emailing every 3 months like, oh, this ELD is no longer valid anymore, so you can't use this company anymore. Why are we doing that? Like, why can't the FMCSA just make a logbook software and just say, hey, everyone just use this, so that way there's nobody's, oh, what's this software like, or what's that ELD, what's this
Right.
system like? I think it will know way more confusing.
Yeah, or just regulate the softwares a little bit more. And maybe regulate is the wrong word there, but don't penalize the driver or the carrier for
Yeah.
using something that was usable before. At least give an off ramp. If you're going to take something out and not allow people to use it anymore, okay, but give us some time and
Exactly.
let us know which
I mean,
system
when they
is
implemented
better.
I think we should just go back to
when
paper books. Times were simpler, easier back then, and everybody was.
we ran through COVID. We had ELDs through COVID and they recorded everything. Obviously we had a clocks off recording because we fell under the emergency thing. None of my guys got into any accidents. None of my guys were sleepy, tired. None of them got overworked. And none of them complained they were overworked. It was very easy. It was just, they could pull over and sleep when they wanted to. And when they were done taking their nap or doing their 10, they were ready to go. And it just felt so much easier. I know it's never going to happen, but it was just so much easier.
It's easier whenever it's convenient for the government to say, okay, you don't need to run by the rules, just get the supplies there. Because we had the hurricanes in South Carolina or the whatever we had before. Then then the gloves are off and just run as you need to. And when they follow the law to the dot, and otherwise you're going to get penalized heavily.
Hey, this is Amy, your editor. We hope you've enjoyed this video. Our conversation with Virk Express was so good and so long, we had to split it in 2 parts. This is a bit of what you can expect on the next video, and we hope you enjoy it. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an update.
Something that we like to do on this show is to talk to carriers and figure out what they're making, how much it costs to run their operation, and get an idea for what is normal in this industry or what you should be reaching for.
His payment was just as much, if not higher, than if the brand new truck we got. And I'm like, what are you doing? I was like, why? We were one of the few companies that didn't raise our rates, that didn't jump on the bandwagon of, oh yeah, we can run this lane for $4,000, $5,000, $6,000. Why should we keep doing it for this price?